The Nexus 6P is the very first Nexus device with camera optics good enough to really live up to the Nexus name. Yes, there are issues with software. I miss shots more often than I'd really like to, but the results kind of speak for themselves. Takes great photos. Well, now that we've got the S7 Edge out and about and in the wild, we know that these are just some of the best camera optics you can buy, period, end of story. So I wanted to see how these two devices actually stacked up in terms of camera performance. So how better to spend a beautiful day outside in Southern California than taking some pictures and doing a good old-fashioned camera shootout. I don't think this is the best way to do a camera shootout. Maybe we should just go take some photos. Yeah, let's go take some photos. Overall, what I'm trying to accomplish here isn't necessarily to pit two devices against one another and tell you that one reigns supreme. The same thing applies to these two cameras as does every other smartphone review that I do. Different strokes for different folks, so you gotta figure out what you value. So at the end, I'm gonna tell you what I value, but the decision is still very much up to you. You might like something I don't. That's perfectly okay. You do you, my friend. So for this tango of smartphone titans, I went with mostly auto settings for everything. I did not go with auto flash, but I went with auto just about everything else, including auto HDR. It's really nice to see that we're working with two photos here that are both visually they're gorgeous. They're both great photos. It's not as if one device is strictly better than the other. And I think that you're gonna find as we flip through them that you're gonna have a bit of a hard time making out which one came from which device. Sometimes. Each time that I put a 6P photo next to a Samsung S7 photo, I find myself subconsciously siding with the 6P photo because it looks more like what I think I see with my own eye. Let's take this photo of flowers as another example. So you can see here on the 6P photo, if you take a look right here, really up close at these flowers right up here in the foreground, they look beautiful. They look very natural. The colors are rich. The contrast is great. It looks very much as though it's true to life. When you switch over to the S7's take on the same photo, it really starts to show the sharper edges. It's kind of funny because when you look at things, you tend to notice the rough edges, but in this, you notice the sharp ones because they're too sharp. Your eyes don't see quite that clearly, and when I see these flowers, it's just too overprocessed for my eyes. If you especially take a look at the edges of the petals, I think you'll start to see where it starts to really look unnatural. Let's move on to this photo right here of my dog Wicket. I realize he's very handsome, don't get distracted by that. But the other thing that you're gonna notice is when you go from one to the other, the color temperature. And this is one that I really gotta give to Samsung. I think that they really knock it out of the park when it comes to replicating exactly the white balance that I felt that I saw when I was there taking that photo. The 6P has a very, very strong tendency to lean towards the greeners and the yellower whites, especially if you take a look at Wicket's head here up at the top and then down towards his legs. The color really starts to distort. Both devices are overall great cameras, and while they do have their strong suits, they do also have their bat nipple suits. While the Samsung software is incredibly fast, I worry that it might be sometimes sacrificing quality for the speed, or for at least the feeling of speed. The 6P definitely feels much slower. It's slow to open the app and it's slow to capture the photo. But at the end of the day, when I look at the photos, I find that the 6P's photos are far closer to what I thought I was actually capturing at the time than the photos that I wound up with from Samsung's device. The S7 had a really hard time getting focus on this thing, and it had a really hard time exposing too. It took me 3 tries to get this photo on the S7 while it took me just 1 on the 6P. So as much as I complain about missing shots because the software isn't quite fast enough, at least the shots that I do get on the 6P, I can feel I can trust. Alright, let's talk about slow motion filming. While we were outdoors, it was fantastic. You can see all of the dog slow-mo glory on screen, but like I said, if you're working in low light, you're gonna have a bad time. The 6P did not hold up well in low light, and the S7 didn't do all that much better. You can see you can hardly catch anything that's happening on screen for either device. But once I did turn the lights on, I did get a cool little shot in slow-mo with those dice. Props to my wife for having that idea. I think overall, the S7 does much better with slow-mo for two major reasons. One, it can let in a lot more light, and two, the optical image stabilization really does make a difference, and especially in slow-mo, it really seems really stable. And of course, I would be remiss without mentioning the incredible low-light performance on the S7. Yes, they're gonna be grainy photos, but if you're looking to make sure that you don't miss a shot, then this is the camera that's gonna do it in low light for you. You know, I gotta be honest, I feel a little flabbergasted by this comparison because I really thought going into it that the S7 was just gonna knock the 6P out of the park because I've just been having such a phenomenal time using this camera, but it very much feels like the way a lot of Samsung software feels. It's almost like it wants to do more than it really can. But then again, the 6P does have its own problems. The camera software is still not nearly as good as Samsung's is despite its heavy-handedness. If the 6P software could catch up to the S7's, then I think it could give it a run for its money. When all is said and done though, I think I gotta give it to the S7. It's just too fast and most of the photos are too good. If you didn't hear too much about specs and aperture and shutter speed and all that stuff, it's because I'm a phone nerd, and you guys are phone nerds, I think. I am also sort of a camera nerd, but the people who are watching this video, I hope, are people who are looking to make a decision between two devices. So, try to focus on just the results. To me, I'm a phone nerd interested in a good camera, not a camera nerd interested in a good phone. So, hopefully, you guys can appreciate that. Let me know what you guys think about this video in the comments. If you want to see more shootouts, please let me know which shootouts you'd like to see in terms of cameras. If you want to see more versuses, we can do that too. Just let me know down below in the comments. You can hit like if you enjoyed this video, subscribe if you want to see more. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be kind to one another, and I'll catch you in the next video.